Okay, today I'm going to answer your questions about down payment and your closing costs, and it's not what you think. Stick around to the end of this video and I'm going to give you a quick, easy tip to make sure that your loan doesn't have any kind of delays while you're under contract when it comes down to your down payment and your funds to close. So when we talk about down payment and your cash to close, down payment is something very simple. It's the amount of money that you are required to have to secure the type of loan that you're applying for. So whether you have a down payment of 3% or 20%, whatever that number is going to be, you got to make sure that you have that money in the bank and it can be sourced. When we say, you hear the term source, what does that mean? It means that that money needs to be sitting in that account, and what the banks will look at is a sourcing of 60 days. So you want to make sure that money's been sitting there for 60 days, and now if you don't have that money sitting in there, here's what you're going to run into. You're going to run into having to source all of these deposits or transfers, which is going to cause, could cause a delay, and I know it's going to cause, a lot of uneasiness because you have to do extra paperwork. That's what it's going to come down to. So if you have transfers coming from a savings account into a checking account, very simple. Just produce the other savings account and statements, and then we can see where that money is going to. It becomes more complicated when you have 3, 4, 5 different accounts and you got money just coming from everywhere, or you're just transferring it from one place to the other because that's what some people do. Just they get the direct deposit, put in their savings account, and they start spreading out when it all goes back to where it originally came from when it comes time to paying bills. So it happens, and I just wanted to make you aware that if you do have money going to these accounts that you're using for closing, expect to have extra paperwork. Expect to do more work, or just leave that money sitting there. This goes the same for cash deposits. If you have any cash deposits larger than your direct deposit from your employer, expect to have to show proof of where those funds came from. For example, let's see here, you sold a cash car, an extra car that you had, or a motorcycle or something, and then you deposit that cash into your account. You're going to have to source where that came from. And if you don't have a bill of sale, then you're going to have a really difficult time showing where that money came from, and probably they'll not be able to use that money. And if you needed that money to be in that account, then your loan's probably going to get denied. Or you'd have to think of another alternative way to get those funds into your account. So that's something you really want to be aware of. If you sell something, cash deposits, there are a lot of buyers that keep their cash, and what they call matches money. I'm sure it's a term that you might be familiar with. But if you have cash on hand, that's not going to be acceptable. So you want to make sure that you put it in your bank account and let it sit there. So that's my tip. The tip to get around this, to not have any delays, if you have cash laying around, or you sell something and then you're going to use, I'm going to buy a house, let me sell one of my cars. Okay, then that's going to be a problem because we have to source where that large deposit came from. So if you sell something, make sure you keep that money in the bank for at least 60 days, so you have 60 days of seasoning. So that's the way you get around it. You get some money, let the money sit there and be patient, because it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of unhappiness and uneasiness and a lot of frustration, most definitely, if you let that money sit in there. So just let that money sit in there, be patient, and then you shouldn't have any problems with that money if it's recently deposited. It goes the same thing once again for 401k statements, cash, things you sell on hand, anything that's larger than your direct deposit from your bank. So I hope I cleared this up a bit for you. You don't hear these things you don't see any kind of these examples on the internet, but this is probably, I would say, maybe the number one or the top 3 problems that you might have when you're going into underwriting and under contract. So this is going to cause a delay, and this is something you definitely want to stay away from, or try to prepare yourself for a delay. I hope this answers your questions about bank statements and sourcing of funds. If you have any questions or any comments, make sure you to comment down below and subscribe and hit that little bell. Always welcome any kind of questions you might have that we can answer for you and clarify. And once again, the answer always depends on your particular scenario.
Thank you.